Yo, what's up guys, welcome back to another video. This is a reaction to 50 facts about US geography that shock non-Americans. I've done so many of these videos, I assume that I'm not going to be shocked by a lot of these, but I could be surprised and find out some new things that are like stuff that I just didn't know about. But yeah, we're going to just see in this video if I'm going to find out some new stuff or if it's going to be the same old sort of facts that I've seen before. But usually with these, you always find out new things, and whether I'll be shocked or not, I don't know. But we're going to jump into this and yeah, hopefully going to enjoy. And let's jump into this reaction.
Think you know America? Think again. From towns you've never heard of to distances you'll never...
I feel like I've seen this town. Why does this town love tennis courts so much? There's like 5. Well, there's 4. Is this one split into 2? I don't know. It's just a random place to have loads of tennis courts, but it's pretty cool scenery to have it.
Guess. These are the US geography slip-ups Europeans always make.
The correct name of the river. Oh, well, they're all just Mississippi. But Mississippi is spelled Mississippi. This one, the bottom left, I think.
And, well, plenty of Americans, too. And if you're into these weekly map dives, hit subscribe. My group chat has already muted me for ranking European peninsulas. Number 50. America is big. It's huge. It's easy to look at a map and think the US...
That can't be a fact. Everyone knows the US is big.
...and the European Union are around the same size, but you'd be wrong. The United States is roughly 3.8 million square miles, 9.8 million square kilometers, nearly twice the size of the EU's 1.6 million, 4.2 million square kilometers. Texas alone can swallow any EU country whole and still have room to spare. And if you want that dream American road trip, you better fill up on gas. New York City to San Francisco is over 2,900 miles, almost 4,700 kilometers. That's like driving from Vienna to Lisbon and back again.
Oh, wow.
That sheer size makes America a land of extremes. Scorching deserts, snow-capped mountains, vast plains, and packed cities, all crammed into one country. And speaking of size, number 49, ask most people the biggest US state and they'll say Texas, because
Alaska.
Well, everything's supposed to be bigger in the Lone Star State. Wrong. Texas is big, but
I feel like it's just given facts that everyone knows. I might just skip through and just see facts that I don't feel like I know. The Mighty River. I mean, that's going to be, what, the Mississippi River?
Number 48. When Europeans think about the Mississippi River, 2 things come to mind: how to spell it and its length. It often gets compared to the Danube, like they're in the same league. The Mississippi runs approximately 2,400 miles, 3,800 kilometers, making it nearly 600 miles, 1,000 kilometers longer than the Danube, which runs about 1,800 miles, 2,900 kilometers from Germany to the Black Sea. The Mississippi drains about 40% of the continental US. That's like rolling most of Europe's rivers into one. It's a river that shapes America's heartland, carrying barges loaded with grain, feeding farms with irrigation, and occasionally wiping out towns with floods. Yet, for many Europeans, it still gets brushed off as just America's version of the Danube.
I enjoyed
Number
this
47.
fact.
European capitals or regional centers tend to be the largest and most prominent cities in the country.
Yeah.
The US does things its own.
I think, like in Europe, because that's why whenever I hear like the bigger cities, like for example when I was younger, like finding out Toronto wasn't the capital of Canada, or like New York wasn't the capital of America, or I don't know, Melbourne, I think that's the biggest city in Australia, wasn't the capital of Australia. These different cities, like when you're younger, you'd think, yeah, because they're definitely going to be the capitals because they're the biggest, most known cities. But I think that the sort of thing that he's saying here about European cities typically being, like capital cities typically being the biggest cities, it's probably not always the case, but a lot more often is the case. It makes you sort of think that's how it works throughout different countries and different continents, but it's not.
Way. California's capital, Sacramento, not LA, because size and movie stars don't win you the crown. North Carolina's capital is Raleigh, even though Charlotte calls the shots economically and culturally. And Illinois, its capital is Little Springfield. No, not the Simpsons one, while Chicago sits on the sidelines.
I mean, I don't know how many people live in this Springfield, but it's gonna have like, what, 10% the population of Chicago, if that?
In Europe, capitals usually hog the spotlight. Politics, money, and culture all crammed into...
You didn't even think to put London in there. I guess you put the UK, didn't you? You didn't really put England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
One city. In the US, capitals were often chosen for history or compromise, not size. It's part of that federal habit of spreading power around instead of letting one city take all the glory. Number 46. Unlike Europe, where centuries-old towns are still buzzing with life, the US is scattered with ghost towns, literally thousands of them.
Yeah.
These were boom towns that shot up almost overnight during mining rushes or railroad pushes. As the gold, silver, or jobs dried up, people bailed. Think of Europe's old market towns. If half of them had been abandoned and left to rot the moment the fairs, feasts, and public executions stopped. Take Bodie, California. In the 1880s, it had saloons on every corner and a reputation for wild shootouts. But once the mines went silent, the town emptied so fast meals were left on tables, completely untouched. Kinda like my mom's Thanksgiving dinners. Number 45. Russia might span 11 time zones, but the US
11? I asked this question the other day, how many Russia has. Canada was 6 or 7. Russia has 11. I mean, it makes sense because it's just so vast, but bloody hell.
holds its own. Counting territories, America officially stretches across 6 different time zones. The mainland alone runs on 4, Eastern, Central, Mountain, and Pacific, and that's before you add Alaska and Hawaii Aleutian, which
I
have
don't know how Alaska doesn't have more than just one time zone. Because it's so wide. I feel like it could easily have 2, but I don't know, I guess just it doesn't.
their own zones. Toss in places like Puerto Rico and Guam, and the list gets even longer. For Europeans used to zipping across a continent mostly in 1 or 2 time zones, it's a shock to the system. In the US, flying coast to coast can mean losing 3 or 4 hours on the clock. It's like taking off in London and landing in Moscow, without ever leaving one country. And if you think
Mad.
that's wild, wait until you hear about the Appalachians, but we'll get there soon.
Ooh.
Number 44. Europeans often picture the US as non-stop city life. New York, LA, and skyscrapers on every
That's definitely what I used to think, but it obviously isn't the case.
corner, but out west in states like Nevada, Montana, and Wyoming, more like empty stretches of land and a lot of cows. Nevada, for instance, is about 5 times bigger than Belgium, but with a population of around 3 million. That's the same as the capital of Portugal, Lisbon. Out west, the land just stretches forever. Deserts, jagged mountains, and national parks where you can drive for hours without spotting a single house. It's less Europe, more Siberia. In Europe, every patch of land gets carved up by towns and farms. In the American West, it's just big skies, open roads, and a whole
That's pretty
lot of
beautiful.
nothing. Something most Europeans can't quite wrap their heads around. Number 43. California is a powerhouse. Nearly 40 million people, about the same as Poland, call it home. Its $4.1 trillion GDP would make it the world's 4th largest economy, slotting in just behind Germany and ahead of Japan. And in size, California's 164,000 square miles, 425,000 square kilometers, put it on par with Sweden. In one state, you've got snow-capped Sierra Nevada peaks, scorching deserts, fertile valleys, and mega-cities. Europeans sometimes picture the US as all the same, but California feels like its own continent. Mediterranean coastlines,
much
alpine
diversity,
mountains,
innit?
and desert frontiers
Comes the land.
mashed together. All it's missing is a medieval castle or two. Number 42. Let's talk measurements, because this is where Europeans really get whiplash. In the US, it's miles instead of kilometers, feet and
Oh.
inches instead of
Are these geography facts? I mean, I guess when you're sort of measuring cities kind of.
meters, gallons at the gas pump, and Fahrenheit on the weather report. So when Europeans see 30 degrees Celsius, they think scorching hot.
By the way, when it comes to Fahrenheit, I mean, I think, is this, like, Fahrenheit is mainly an American thing, right? Isn't Celsius used, not just by Europeans, it's used by most countries? Most continents, I think. Unless I'm very unaware of the world.
Americans call the same thing 86 degrees Fahrenheit, which to some may sound like, maybe bring a sweater.
Sounds
It's
quite
the
a
kind
lot.
of mismatch that makes road trips, forecasts, and even ordering a soda feel like a puzzle. Europe sticks to one clean system. America, it's still clinging to its own. Part tradition, part
See, it's so weird because I used to use miles as well, and I don't know why. I guess the UK, miles and kilometres are sort of, they're both used. Feet and inches, I mean, to be fair, I use feet. I use feet and inches as well. Wait, so
Europe sticks to one clean.
Meters. Yeah, I feel like I use both. Other than the Celsius and Fahrenheit, I use both.
System. America, it's still clinging to its own. Part tradition, part
So I don't use gallon either. But the first two I use. Like feet and inches, I'm 5'9". Centimeters, that's like 175 centimeters. So I sort of know the conversion for that. Miles and kilometers, I'm not actually as good at sort of doing the conversion. But you use them both.
And maybe
In the
just
UK.
a little bit of, we like being difficult. Number 41. Canada gets all the fame as the land of lakes, but the US is stacked with them too. Over 102,000 in total. Minnesota alone brags about being the land of 10,000 lakes, and some of those aren't just backyard ponds. They're massive freshwater seas. The Great Lakes, like Michigan and Superior, are so big they make whole European countries look like puddles. Lake Superior is bigger than Belgium or the Netherlands. This network of lakes plays a crucial role in America's ecology, economy, and recreation. Europeans often don't realize how much water defines US life until they realize some Americans own more boats than cars. So yeah, America is twice the size of Europe. Alaska makes Texas look like a starter pack, and the Mississippi is so massive it makes the Danube look like a hotel fountain. And we're just getting started. Number 40. Unlike European cities like Paris or Berlin, which sit inside larger regions, Washington, D.C. was built as its own federal district. That's so no single state could bully the national government. It's tiny, just 68 square miles, 177 square kilometers, way smaller than sprawling capitals like London or Rome. But within that small patch, you've got the White House, the Capitol, and the Supreme Court, the entire nerve center of American politics. Its very existence shows how differently the US does things compared to Europe, where capitals usually sprouted out of old kingdoms and historic regions. Number 39. In Europe, mountains aren't just for skiing or snapping selfies, they often double as borders between countries. In the US, the Rockies don't divide, they dominate. This massive range runs thousands of kilometers from New Mexico up through Colorado, Wyoming, Idaho, Utah, and Montana. The Rockies form the Continental Divide, where rivers split east toward the Atlantic and Gulf of America, formerly known as the Gulf of Mexico, or west toward the Pacific. They impact weather, wildlife migrations, and even decide where people can live. In short, they don't just sit on the map, they run the show. Number 38. Europeans, and even some Americans, often assume New York City is the capital of New York State. Nope, that honor goes to Albany. With around 100,000 people, it's tiny compared to NYC's 8.5 million. Albany proves that size doesn't matter. It's where the legislature meets and the governor hangs his hat. In that way, it's a bit like Luxembourg City or Ljubljana in Europe. Small capitals flexing on everyone else. It's another reminder that US states often keep their politics and their money in different places. Number
Probably
37.
smart, to be honest.
Central Europe is
About to say, this can't be America. This is beautiful. Where the fuck is this? It's gonna be Eastern Europe somewhere. I'm almost certain. Mate, this is crazy. Bloody hell.
known for its green valleys tucked between towering mountain ranges, the Rhine Gorge, the Danube Valley, usually 1,000 to 3,300 feet, 300 to 1,000 meters deep. Impressive, sure, but the Grand Canyon? Whole different league. At its deepest, it plunges more than 5,900 feet, 1,800 meters, and runs almost 280 miles, 450 kilometers long. Carved by the Colorado River over millions of years, the Grand Canyon drops into a raw, dry, almost alien landscape. Europe's valleys feel cozy by comparison. The Grand Canyon feels like the Earth just cracked open. You don't really get it until you're standing on the rim, with your knees wobbling. Number 36. Miami is closer to Havana than it is to New York. It's just 230 miles, 370
That's probably the most obvious fact I've ever seen.
kilometers across the water to Cuba, but nearly 1,200 miles, 1,900 kilometers up the coast to New York. That closeness shapes Miami's food, culture, and vibe. More tropical and Latin America than anything you'll find up north. For Europeans used to short hops between countries, it's a surprise to learn Miami's real neighbor isn't New York, it's Havana. New York might send tourists. Cuba sends the flavor. Number
You could have used a better one, like Miami is closer to Havana than it is to Jackson within its own state, because I assume it probably is closer to Havana. But that's such an obvious fact. Oh, that would piss me off a little bit.
35. Europe barely has deserts. The only true one is Spain's Little Tabernas. The American Southwest, a whole different story.
So
The
many.
Mojave Desert alone sprawls across nearly 48,000 square miles, 124,000 square kilometers. That's bigger than Greece or Bulgaria, and it's just
Damn.
one desert. Add the Sonoran and the Great Basin, and you've got hundreds of thousands more. But they're not empty voids. They're alive with unique plants and animals, dotted with towns, and home to icons like Joshua Tree and Death Valley. Many Europeans don't realize how deserts play an important role in the US, far from being empty wastelands. They're a defining part of the country's geography and character. Plus, they're some of the only places where running into a cactus is a genuine travel hazard. Number 34. Hawaii is pretty lonely. Sitting nearly 2,400 miles, 3,800 kilometers southwest of California, it's planted in the middle of the Pacific, about 2/3 of the way to Japan. This is farther than the distance from Glasgow, Scotland to Moscow. And its isolation is basically its whole personality. And that's not a bad thing. It shaped everything from culture to climate to wildlife, mixing
beautiful.
Polynesian roots with US
I need to go
influence.
one
Yet
day, man.
plenty of Europeans think Hawaii is just off California's coast, right up until they're 5.5 hours into a flight stuck next to a screaming baby. So much for that relaxing getaway. Number 33. The Appalachian Mountains are basically the pensioners of America's mountain ranges. At over 480 million years old, they make Europe's Alps, just 65 million years old, look like toddlers. Once taller than today's Rockies, the Appalachians have been worn down over ages of erosion into the rolling hills and modest peaks we see now. Unlike the still-growing Alps or Rockies, these mountains are long past their growth spurt. To Europeans, they might look small, but they're among the oldest
I can't lie, to me they don't look small because I don't have any mountain ranges close to me whatsoever.
landscapes on Earth. Number 32. Europe has its headliner islands, like Sicily, Corsica, or the Greek Isles. The US might not have the same Mediterranean glamour, but it's secretly an
He's
island
saying it shocks non-Americans, but he's only comparing it to Europe. Surely you compare it to other places as well.
hoarder with thousands scattered across lakes, rivers, and oceans. Some, like the Great Lakes archipelagos, are so big they could pass for small European countries. Others, like Washington's San Juans, feel more like cozy villages dropped into the sea. Along the Atlantic and Gulf coasts, barrier islands act like speed bumps for hurricanes, protecting the mainland while hosting beach towns that look one storm away from vanishing. Most of these islands barely show up on standard maps, but each comes with its own quirks, like tiny outposts where the ferry doubles as the school bus. They're hidden pieces of America's geography most Europeans never hear about. Number 31. In Europe, geography usually means countries with borders, flags, and centuries of history. In the US, it's a bit fuzzier. Regions have names like the Midwest, the South, New England, or the Pacific Northwest. They're not political lines, just cultural shorthand. So Illinois counts as Midwest, while Texas flies the flag of the South. And those two couldn't be more different in climate, culture, or economy. It's America's way of making sense of a huge, mixed-up landscape. Think of it like Europe ditching borders and just calling France the wine belt or Scotland the cold, rainy bit. So America's the place
I mean,
where
you have Eastern Europe, you have Western Europe, you have Scandinavia, which is, I guess, Northern Europe, but it's a very small amount. I'm trying to think of what else there is. You've got the Mediterranean countries in Europe. Is that really one you would use? Probably not.
Albany beats New York to be capital, the Grand Canyon makes Europe's valleys look like ditches, and Hawaii turns out to be halfway to Tokyo instead of next to California. Of course it is. Remember, hit that like button, subscribe, and let's finish this ride together. Number 30. Some Europeans picture the US and Russia as worlds apart, but they're basically neighbors. In the Bering Strait, the Diomede Islands sit just 2.4 miles, 3.8 kilometers apart. Little Diomede for the US, Big Diomede for Russia. You can literally stand on one and wave at the other, though you'd be waving across the international date line, so technically you're greeting someone tomorrow. In winter, the water freezes enough that you could, in theory, walk between the two, though it's probably not a great idea unless you like international incidents. Number 29. Death Valley in California doesn't just get hot, it also goes low. At 282 feet 86 meters below sea level,
I thought it was going to say low temperature. I was going to be like, what the hell?
it's the lowest point in North America. Europe's lowest spot, the Caspian Depression in Russia, bottoms out at 92 feet 28 meters below sea level. Death Valley is a sun-baked furnace, famous for record-breaking heat and landscapes that look more Mars than Earth. It's one of those places where the valleys beat the mountains for drama, and where your car's AC better not quit on you. Number 28.
Mate, the people who built roads within that region, fair play.
Europe is dotted with crystal clear freshwater lakes, some fed by glaciers. Utah's Great Salt Lake? Total opposite. Its salinity can hit 10 times that of the ocean.
Whoa.
Basically the Dead Sea draped in stars and stripes. The lake grows and shrinks with the seasons, sometimes ballooning to almost 1,700 square miles, 4,400 square kilometers, bigger than Berlin. It's teeming with brine shrimp, packed with migratory birds, and even turning pink when microbes bloom. And don't worry if you can't swim. You'll float, whether you like it or not. Number 27. Wyoming, the least populated U.S. state. It's got less than 600,000 residents, fewer than Luxembourg, but it's bigger than the entire United Kingdom. That means wide open spaces where the population density is so low, you're more likely to bump into a moose than a neighbor. And it's not just Wyoming. Vermont and even Alaska have populations on par with tiny European states. For Europeans used to tightly packed towns and cities, it's jarring. Here you can drive for hours without seeing another human being. In America's emptiest corners, rush hour is just a tumbleweed rolling across the road. Number 26. If you're a fan of bling, grab a shovel and head to Arkansas. Crater of Diamonds State Park is one of the only diamond-producing sites on Earth open to the public. Visitors hunt for gems like amethyst, jasper, and diamonds.
I do wonder how much money you can make from doing this. It's probably got to be so little unless you genuinely hit the jackpot.
And whatever you find, you keep. That's wildly different from the rest of the world, where diamond mining is industrial, fenced off, and locked down. Here specifically, it's a tourist attraction. 91 acres, 37 hectares of dirt, where anyone can strike it lucky. For Europeans used to diamonds sitting behind glass cases in Brussels or Antwerp, the idea of kids pulling them out of the mud feels very American. It's a fun family day out, with the possibility of an early retirement.
I mean, that would be pretty cool. I just want to go back, because I know I skipped it. I am just going to let him say this fact, and then we'll end it, because it's just, I always hear this fact about, oh yeah, Alaska's the biggest state, but no one knows that. Everyone knows that it's the biggest state in America. I guess unless you have no idea about this country whatsoever, but I'm assuming even then you would probably know that.
Oh, everything's supposed to be bigger in the Lone Star State. Wrong. Texas is big, but Alaska, it's twice the size and larger than France, Spain, and Germany combined. Texas clocks in at about 270,000 square miles, almost 700,000 square kilometers, but Alaska absolutely dwarfs it, packing in over 656,000 square miles, 1.7 million square kilometers. But despite all that space, Alaska is practically empty. Just over 700,000 people live there, fewer than in Brussels. So it's basically a country-sized wilderness with the population of a mid-tier European city. Number 48,
There we go. It's mad when you put it like that, to be fair. Like how few people live there in such a big amount of space. Like, it's hilarious that a geography-based channel can't put the pin drops correctly on 8 Mammoth Cave, 7 Everglades. Because Michigan got the Upper Peninsula, Wisconsin is the only northern state without a border with Canada. But yeah, there we go. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this reaction. And until next time, like, subscribe.